welcome everybody to the Seeff'Cast. Now, this episode is a very, very special episode because we are not live in Dubai. We're actually live in Cape Town, South Africa. And I'm sitting with an individual, a young gentleman, who has spearheaded the name Seeff to make it a global brand and a force to be reckoned with. And now we're going to learn a little bit of the ins and outs of him and how exactly he started off, who his mentors were, and as well as why exactly he feels that Seeff is going to be the brand to go to for the next coming years. Goes none under the name of Samuel Seeff. Samuel?
Afternoon, Manzi. Thank you for being with us in Cape Town. As you can see, I have my scarf. It's not quite Dubai weather. It's raining. It's pretty chilly, but really nice to be with you.
Thank you so much. I mean, yes, as you just mentioned, Cape Town right now, the weather is chilly. It's cold. Dubai is quite hot. And that just gives you the stark difference between the Western Cape and the UAE. All right. So, Sam, I just want to find out from you. You know, you've been in this business for 40 years now. We've just had our 2025 licensee conferences and we just found out that you've been here for 40 years.
Actually, this is my 41st. Yes,
Your 40, your 41st year. So from where you started off, you know, of course, you were a young gentleman at that time. You did not know much about real estate, and bring it to where we are today. Just the one challenge that you can just pick out, starting off, Seeff.
There's probably been more than one. But I think that the truth from starting off at 21, just to give a little bit of context, I didn't start the business. It was my late father's business, and he died literally the day after my 21st birthday. And we were sitting around the table about a week or 2 weeks later, and my elder brother, who was in the business at the time, said, well, he's going to stay on the business. And don't know where it happened, but it popped out from me. I wasn't planning on ever thinking about it. I was at university, and I said, okay, I'll join you. I'll come into the business. And the voice appeared from somewhere, nowhere. I don't even recognize my own voice in it saying it, but I said it. And once I said it, it was out there, and I said, okay. And so I stopped my studies and I started in the business. And I think the initial challenge, because I think there are different challenges as one goes away, but the initial challenge was having enough confidence to believe at a young age that what I was doing was correct and the right thing. I went into managing people 50 years old. That's double and a half. That's had a whole lifetime in experience and 25 years of real estate experience or 20 years. And I would be telling them what to do and how to do it. And I would work during the day and then go home and read real estate books because there weren't videos and there wasn't those kinds of things even then. And then try and apply that in practice. And I think the challenge was actually finding my own voice. Quietly. I never knew that at the time. It only when you reflect back on it that you felt, and that was a question of being respectful and sometimes being too respectful for people who were just older than you, just had more experience, but not necessarily were good, not necessarily had the right experience. So I think that was the initial period of finding myself and asserting myself and taking my own direction as an initial challenge. Thereafter, we've had lots of challenges. There's been market challenges, there's people challenges, there's finance challenges, there's good times and bad times, etc. But that I think is something that is, when I reflect back, is something, because I think it's so important, because no matter what age you are, if you're doing the right thing, you'll be fine. And I learned subsequent, not too much later, but my late father's first cousin, we were based in the Western Cape, had a very big business, real estate, same business, agency business in Johannesburg. And he came up with a quote which was quoted by one of the youngest American presidents. It could have been Kennedy, but I'm not sure. And he said something like, the act of judging somebody's ability on age itself is an act of immaturity. In other words, if somebody's judging you just because you're young, they're the ones who are immature.
100%.
And I took that to heart, and that stuck with me now, some 40 years later, as we go, because it really revealed to me that it's what you do and what you say, no matter your age. And try to help that through. Took me a while. I was still challenged, but got there, hopefully.
So, you started off, as you just mentioned now, 21 years old, the initial challenge of getting your confidence, understanding what you need to do, obviously a little bit lost at that time. Who was the mentor for you at that point?
So it was an interesting one. I had an older brother,
Yeah.
Lawrence, who's still in the business, still involved. He was only 4 years older than me. He had a bit more experience, a bit more business experience. One of the better business people that I've known. Now I'm looking forward to introducing him to you
Oh,
at some stage.
okay.
I'm sure
Lawrence
you'll
is-
enjoy that. He was a bit of a mentor, but in truth, I didn't really have it. I lacked it. I looked for it for the beginning period of all my career and never quite got and found the opportunity to have an individual to be able to talk to relate to be able to go and speak with. And I kind of fumbled my own way through, I suppose,
Yeah.
is the right one. I suppose in a way I'm still looking for a mentor.
Yeah.
You know, as one goes, I think you
Yeah.
probably need it all the way through. And you have different influences and inputs from different people. But I never really had a mentor. I had Lawrence, who we were working with each other morning, noon, evening, nighttime, 18 hours a day, every single day, kind of, would go to bed. We shared a place for a period of time, go to bed talking about work, wake up while you're brushing your teeth from one bathroom to the other, shouting about work, etc.
Yeah.
And so we worked together a lot. And because he was a little bit older and a little bit more experienced, but not that much, I viewed him as a way, but he didn't fulfill that role. We were more kind of business partners.
Yeah. So I think, you'd be very fortunate to have a family member, especially who is that close to you, that you can just sort of bounce your ideas off, and then you won't really need that mentorship.
In a way, it's a fabulous partnership when you can work with somebody in your family who there is absolutely deep trust, then it's fantastic because you can agree on everything and work together, and you can disagree and have violent, not quite violent, violent we never got to, but very strong disagreements, even using swear words at each other and that kind of thing. And know at the end of the, whatever it is, you're still brothers. You're still working for the same thing. You're still putting it all together. So if that can work, I think there's nothing better. Equally, I think if you have siblings or family people in a family business where they don't get on and don't have the same goals and don't respect each other and don't work together, then it can destroy a family. That's awful.
That's true.
We were, I suppose, quite lucky that we had the respect, we worked hard, and we built together.
And speaking about family, because that is one of the core values of Seeff. The other 6, how did you actually construct those values to implement them into Seeff, and where exactly in the stages of Seeff did you start coming up with them?
It's actually interesting. This was, and I've got to give credit, a previous licensee who used to do management training, and he took the NatCom, the group that is involved with all the licensees who are voted on and who come and join the group. And he took us for a session about 10 years ago, and he said, right, guys, we're working, etc., but we're working in a vacuum. We need to repurpose our mission, our goals, our values, and see how we can take them forward. And so we workshopped it for about a day and a half, and we came up with them. Now, I'm not saying they're necessarily unique to us. I think the integrity one is one which is a complete cornerstone. It's a foundation of who we are. If you're not going to have integrity, you won't be in business long. We've been in for 60 years. We're in our 61st. I think that's absolutely a hallmark that people can say, you're dealing with Seeff, you can trust them, they've got integrity. Some of them are different. Perseverance. A lot of people don't consider, not many people would look up as their values perseverance, but we know what it takes in this industry. You don't necessarily, apart from yourselves and you and your colleagues in Dubai, get to be an overnight success. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and a lot of time you want to give up just at the point of being successful. You have to persevere. So, we took that through. The innovation one was something I think that's been a hallmark for us. If I identify why we've grown, why we've done, we've always looked down the road to see what's coming, what's the next, how can we innovate, how can we be the first in, how can we do things differently, how can we adapt to whatever's coming. And even before it's hit us, we've adapted and we're ready for it, etc. Such as we're now looking at AI and how to incorporate it into the business and how to take it forward and that kind of thing. So, I've gone through the one that is specifically interesting one is the one is challenging.
Challenging, yeah.
Because most companies won't look at it as challenging as a core value, but and that's one of the elements which I've actually had in terms of challenge is to actually have people who've challenged, but challenged for the wrong reasons. So for me, challenging is a positive attribute. It's how can we do things better? How can we improve? How can we do things differently that's going to make us more efficient and focus on getting to the end goal, etc. So those of them I've talked about. Obviously, we're talking about excellence. I mean, in our service offering, we've got to talk about having that. That's clearly something that's absolutely, it goes without saying. You're also not going to have a long track record in being business unless you strive to provide service excellence. And then passion.
100%.
You've got to have passion for this business. This is a business which gives you right up there in terms of ups and
lows.
In fact, even lower than we're talking down, in terms of lows. And if you don't have passion every day to get out of business and to attack it, you're not going to make it happen.
You know, these values, I mean, the market has been changing a lot. And I think for every individual, every branch, it has to come into play. As you just mentioned, there's highs and there's lows. So I know for a fact you're just you're a single individual. You can't be everywhere all at once. But how is it that you encourage every single branch to say, look,
you can with 3 telephones.
With 3 telephones, 100%. But how do you just encourage every single branch to say, look, the market is not that great this time around, but make sure that these values are still instilled within yourselves and within the agents?
So the values are there. They are embedded into who we are.
Yeah.
The market will have cycles.
Yes.
You can't change your values because the market has different cycles. You've got to say, right, I believe in this. One of my values is integrity. I will absolutely act within integrity. If I am not persuaded this deal is a good one for you, but it might serve my purpose because I'll earn out of the deal, I've got to look in the eye and say, Monzi, don't do this deal. It helps me, but not you. And we've said that on a number of occasions, and the clients always come back and they value that and they respect that and they tell other people. And it might be a tough market. It might be at the bottom of the cycle. And you could do with that deal and you could do with the income from it, etc. But you can't give up on your integrity because once you start there, then it's a never-ending slide. So as we've got here, our values are up right as you walk in. In most of our Seeff offices, you walk in, the values are there. We live them, we breathe them, we talk about it. Someone wants to be critical and somebody says, don't be so critical. We say, no, he's challenging, provided he's challenging in a positive way.
In the right way,
And so we live by that, and somebody's down and then we say, come on, keep on going with it, persevere, make it happen. And, so their values not for a good market or a bad market, they're values for what we believe in and what we stand in.
That's 100% true. And Seeff has been, as you said, 61 years now. The growth that has been made for the past 61 years, and obviously for your service for 41 years now, where do you think we are? I mean, we don't have a graph or a chart or anything, but where do you think we are in terms of the growth? Are we at stabilizing or are we still...
No. There's lots more to do. I'm looking for young, motivated people like you to come in and help us take it forward. So if I analyze it and look at it, we've had certain stages within the group. We had the stage which my father built up and got to a certain level in the Western Cape and franchised. We bought the franchises back and then we grew again from 84 to around about 2000 and we diversified. We were in property syndications. We bought properties and sold off. We were in commercial industrial. We're in business broking. We were in a lot of different levels. We, in fact, listed the business at that stage. So it was a very big growth factor in the late 80s after we'd established ourselves to the early 90s to the time we got listed. And then the market was tough at one stage, 25.5% interest rates. That's quite in 1998. It wasn't for a long period, but we had to deal with that. And when we got bought out, a lot of the other subsidiary and diversified companies fell away. We bought ourselves back in the late 1990s. And so for the last 25 years, we've been on another trajectory. And I said this at our licensee conference, at our gala dinner. I feel now we're poised, as in the foundation has been reestablished for big growth.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other thing that I did mention was that management, together with the licensees, we're ambitious. We're not sitting here saying, let's put our feet up and say, okay, well, that's it done, and just sitting back and enjoying the fruits of the labor. No, we're 25 years into the new phase. We've now created the foundation and we're ready for growth. So what does that look like? If I honestly said to you where the group is and its current position with its current footprint, I reckon we're doing 40% of the business we should be doing. So there's a big amount to be done just in what we currently are. Not talking about the new opportunities. So what are the new opportunities? Well, we're fast establishing ourselves as the most strongest and established group in SADC, all the way through in Southern Africa. And now we're going a little bit beyond. Tanzania is opening up for us shortly. We're going to be opening up in Kenya in a few months' time. And there's other opportunities within Africa. And it's important for us to establish that growth in that network so that when people are talking and thinking about property in Africa, they're thinking about us. That's the immediate. We've now opened up in Dubai very successfully. We're in Mauritius, as you know, with 4 offices. Then we've got to start looking and saying, right, where else does it make sense? Where else can the brand translate? And I don't know if we've yet quite got the game plan and the strategy to be opening up in Europe or going to the UK or the US. But it's interesting, what might have been off the table 5 or 6 years ago, by the growth of our international partners and the success we've achieved and showing what the brand really can offer, I think we're opening ourselves up to that opportunity. So we'll be opportunistic. We had an licensee move to Europe a couple of years ago, and she wanted to establish the brand there. And we talked about it, and we realized that the timing probably wasn't right. But if there is an opportunity for us to go somewhere in Europe or the UK or US, we would certainly look at it. However, there's still 60% of potential exactly in our footprint that I think we can get to. And this is business, Wanzi. You're never going to get there. You're never going to get to 100% of your potential. But you're going to work damn hard to try to get there. And we'll move our 40 to 50 to 60 to 70, 75%. And if we were at 75%, I would be saying to you, hey, we need to really now move. We've really got to expand and find opportunities. But we're not there yet. So there's quite a lot of work to be done first. When we get there, and I'm hoping it's sooner rather than later, then we can start looking at the areas where we're not.
I'm actually thinking now as you're speaking, it's as if we are starting from scratch in a way. You know what I mean? Because there is so much potential that still needs to happen. And there is so much unlearning and new learnings that we need to do now in terms of the brand itself and in terms of individual branches. There's about 250 branches now, plus that's going out in Africa.
Yeah, over 200 branches.
Over 200 branches, So it's almost as if we are, the legacy is already there, but it's like we're recreating another legacy now.
Yeah. So I think that's the thing that I'm enjoying at the moment in the business, is that there's an energy.
Yeah.
There's a focus of saying, challenging ourselves, as per that.
As you just said,
as to how can we do things better? How can we improve? How can we get from that 40 to 75, 80% of our potential? Not just, hey, we've done 40%, we're a brand name, we put our feet up on the desk and etc. We're a day after our conference. We're talking now. I have an appointment with an agent that I'd like to bring across to the group. I've been chasing for a number of years, not successful, but we're keeping on trying. We're going to see a really big listing. We're going to have, it's not like, okay, conference is done, down tools, relax, and, we'll worry about it next Monday. We're at it. Straight away. We're having meetings. We're saying, right, what can we do? How can we take it further?
Yeah, so once this video does come out, we had a conference from the 16th of May until the 20th of May. It was a licensee conference where obviously we've just been recognizing different licensees and the, achievements that they've accomplished in the past year of 2024. It was such an amazing conference, just by the way. It was my first.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to keep coming to more conferences and obviously get new locations, possibly Dubai at some point.
Okay, well, we'll look at it. Yeah.
Possibly at Dubai. But Look, there's so much planning that goes into everything that you are doing at in Seeff, and I just want to find out from you, in terms of picking locations for instance a conference,
Yeah.
what goes behind that? Like, what's the research that you are doing as an individual to know that okay, we should do it in this location?
So here's the big thing. We're constrained because we need so many hotel rooms.
Yeah.
There are many places that we'd like to go that can't take us. So, we're talking 120, 150 hotel rooms. And you've got to have a conference facility that is large enough and strong enough to be able to take us.
Yeah.
So we have been doing the circuit, as it were, in South Africa for a while. There was talk of us possibly going to either Zimbabwe or Botswana, in the next one, or being around. We tend not to be looking at urban areas. We go a little bit out afield so that the guys are there and most of the activities take place there. I mean, listen, you've got young guys like yourself. They finish with the old guys like me and they want to go out. So it's not so easy in a place which is a bit remote.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things that one looks at. You want to try and keep on the group together and build on the spirit. But it's, again, you look at it and you say, what makes sense? Who can accommodate us? Where do we want to be? So we try and move it around.
Okay.
And we haven't decided for next year, but they are looking. I know that there was one or two thoughts. We've been looking to go to Mauritius, actually, for a number of times. The actual opportunity and what they offer in Mauritius is fantastic. But then to get all our crew across, that all the backstage and building the stages and the sound systems and the tech systems, that's the cost that mounts up and potentially holds us against it. But I understand you're a bit of an expert in that, so maybe you'll be able to lend a hand.
Well, you can see I'm a simple man.
Yeah,
you can literally see I'm a simple man.
Very much.
All right.
So we'll wait to see where next year is.
Okay, so now just want to get, I don't want to say a little bit or too personal, but you have been very much monumental in terms of bringing the brand up. I don't want to say it's going to be a stupid question, but what would be your week like? You're just a normal week as you, Samuel Seeff.
Okay. So I thought you meant WEAK. I thought we can go there as well. I'm sure there are lots of weaknesses.
We'll go there.
I'm sure there are lots of weaknesses too. But in terms of my working week, largely it's a Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
I tend to try and have downtime on the weekends.
Okay.
I'm a big sports fan, so I try and...
Is that important?
The downtime?
Yeah.
I never used to. I mean, if I look at my early part of the career, there wasn't a week. You could just pick a day and I was working. Whether we were in the office on a Saturday morning and then, working through till after lunch, then having your lunch and then taking off that Saturday. And then you'd start again on Sunday. We had show days. You drive around and visit all the show days and see the agents and see they're working and stop the car and put the board right because it was facing the wrong way, right down to that kind of basic, right down to the basic. But these days I tend to try and keep my weekends to myself.
Okay.
For my family and social, etc. But during the week, I go to gym twice a week. I walk twice a week, and I have a stretching class, which, when you get to my age, I think you might need to look at it. At your age, you don't have to, but at my, which I found very beneficial. Yeah. So I go to the gym. I do weights. I walk twice a week. I walk on the weekend as well. But so my day starts there. But I'll wake up early and I'll answer 3 or 4 emails before I go off to gym or before I start my work, or I'll have 1 or 2 phone calls. So I did a small LinkedIn post the other day, which I talked about this, is that there's no longer a work-life balance.
That's true, actually.
It's a work-life blend. So
what works for you, actually? Yeah.
Well, that's how it is. So it's not like a work-life balance presupposes 8 hours of work and then 8 hours of play or resting or whatever it is, and then 8 hours again. Nowadays, you just do it as the work comes in. We have our phones. The phones are automatically, somebody needs something, they need to be sent a contact number for somebody who's interested in a different area. You don't wait till tomorrow morning and say, well, I'm only working tomorrow morning. We have a saying in our company called the quick and the dead. You're either quick or you're dead. So we like to be quick. So,
Okay.
so the issue being is that you're working all the time. So, my morning will start. I'll answer emails. I'll have a phone call. I'll go to the gym. I'll come back. Normally, I have to bring my wife a cup of coffee. So while I'm there, I'll go back onto my emails, and I'll look at my WhatsApps, and I'll send messages off. And it's important because that keeps the business growing. People inquire, you deal with it, you handle it, you move it on, etc. Then I'll come back, and I'm largely working from home these days, which I found to be, for me, of great benefit. Yeah, I enjoy it. It allows me a little bit more relaxed time. I'm not having to dress up. In the old days, I used to go home or start up the day and shave and put on a white shirt and a tie and a jacket, and even in the hot days, etc. And that kind of that was the style. Nowadays, I'm more relaxed, but I get behind my computer after I've obviously showered and cleaned up already, and then my day starts, and I have meetings, I have board meetings, I have executive management meetings, I have interactions with people either by phone or on Google Meet or Zoom or whatever it is that we do, and that's my day taken up. And sometimes I can have 2 or 3 meetings, and then I'm doing my own work and catching up and making sure that I'm up to date with all my emails and looking at finances from different offices or different branches and different opportunities and contracts. And other days I can have 10 meetings on the hour.
Wow.
One after the other. And all you do is you're looking at the computer, you're talking, they're talking, you're interacting, and you're going, to the point sometimes you say, excuse me, guys, I've just come off a meeting. I'm going to the bathroom. I'm coming back now. And you have your next meeting. And it's also made you very efficient. No more driving to meetings. No more having to, be stuck in traffic. Give yourself a half an hour when click of the button, your meeting finishes at 11:01. You're already on the next meeting. And that's made me more efficient in that regard as well. The other thing is that I don't have to do, which I did have to do, and this is since COVID. I would be in an airplane at least once a week, somewhere in the country, going to Durban, going to the Garden Route, going to Johannesburg, then going back to Durban if necessary. Now we have Google Meet meetings, and it's not quite the same. But for the efficiency and the savings and the value add in terms of lifestyle, whatever you lose on the one, I think you're gaining very much more by the other.
So I think there's a probably a gray area between, as you just mentioned now, the work blend or work-life balance, because I think people think that you need to get to a certain stage in your life in order for you to sort of live the on the go. You don't have to keep, as you said, dress up and go to the office or do whatever it is. You can literally do everything but touch of a button on your phone or your laptop. Is there a point? Is there a stage where you need to get to where you can just do that, or does it just organically happen?
Why do you want that? You see, no, that's the point. The point that I'm saying is that you've got to try and live your life now as you want to live it. It's not, when I get to, in your case, 35, I'm going to have X, or 45, I'm going to do what? Try it now. I'm trying to, in terms of your style and your balance, I mean, I think that everybody's a lot more relaxed these days. The ties and the jackets are gone, and, I'm now in a round collar, I perhaps should have put on a shirt for this, but, we're in a different style. I think people are looking more at what you're saying and how you're behaving than specifically how you look, although I do believe there's a strong place for how you look and how you present yourself. But you should try and live the life you want to lead now, not say, well, when I get to 35 or when I get to 45 or when I get to 60, that's how it's going to be. Because that means you're not enjoying yourself now. You've got to enjoy it all along the way. You've got to have, coming back to our values again, the passion to bring it out, to enjoy it. And if you're finding that you're not living your best life now, you've got to ask yourself, why? What am I missing out? What am I doing? Because if you can, this shouldn't be an effort. This should be something enjoyable. So you should be happy to be doing the work. You should be happy and saying, geez, I can't wait for my phone to go so I can get onto it and I can deal with it and take somebody there and I can show them that and I can follow up with a guy who's giving me trouble because he's not sending his finances through. Or, you bring it on and you welcome it as an opportunity.
Geez, okay. Yeah, because, I mean, we've just seen, especially post-COVID now, a lot of things have changed. The work from home is becoming much more evident. As you said, meetings can be held online. You don't necessarily have to be at a certain place at a certain time. You can literally do everything from home. So for you, have you seen the sort of positive change and negative change COVID has impacted?
Yeah, well, for me, as I said, and I don't want to repeat myself, it's been brilliant.
Yeah.
It's added years of my work longevity. Whereas before, it wasn't, I have to admit it, a battle to get to office. And you got to be first in office. You're the boss.
Yeah.
You got to be there 7:30. Well, how do I do my gym then? You know what I mean? It's like that kind of thing. And well, but you come in at 8:30 or 8:45 in the whole office here, and they're looking at you saying, "So where you been? Why are you so late?" And it's not that you have to worry about being judged and you can just do as you please. It's you're setting an example. So I'm not worried about setting the example if I go to gym now. If I've done my 4 emails first, I've handled my WhatsApps, I've set the course for the business, and then I go to gym. You know what I'm saying? So for me, working from home has been fantastic. I have my staff in the same way as you'd have there. They bring me my coffee, they look after me, etc. And yes, you get interrupted when the guy comes to clean the pool and the guy cuts the garden. It's noisy. You close the door for a bit, but it's a much more relaxed atmosphere. I can work with it. My PA, who I share with Stuart, is based in Gauteng, in Pretoria. You know, she's not even in the same city, and is as efficient and as brilliant as one can be, and organizes everything. And we obviously interact on an ongoing basis. But I suppose it's the same as if she was sitting here and I was in my office over there, and she came in and we talked. We're talking.
It's the same
She's
thing.
just got to go and do the work.
Yeah.
And organize and prepare, which she does unbelievably efficiently. So that's it. It has allowed and given me the freedom, specifically now that I don't have to travel. Not that I minded it at the time. I actually enjoyed it, getting the airplane, going there, etc. But you can be more efficient. I don't have to wait the 2 hours there, flight, 3 hours. You got to go to the airport first, then you got to get from the airport to whatever it is. Then, so that's 3.5. Then the 3.5 on the way back, etc. So I could rather have 6 meetings in that time.
In that time frame.
So I think there's been a lot of positives. People talk about the negatives, about that you're not in an office and you're not in building a corporate culture and that kind of, and I do believe there is merit in that argument. And as I said, I think it's a balance. You look at it and you say, what's more effective, or where is it going to add more value? I would rather have, for me and for my group at the time and where we are, the little bit less of perhaps the culture, of which we try. We have functions, we have every 2-week meetings. Everybody's in on the meeting, and it's how you're going. And we talk about the English football results. And the guys who aren't interested wait patiently for us to finish, and then they get on board. And but we've still got that culture. I don't think we've lost that much.
Okay. And the positives and negatives in terms of the brand post-COVID, what have you seen that impacted it positively?
So I'm not sure that it's, well, okay. So I think one of the things that we took on board, which I think we did really well, was we were all under lockdown.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I'd learned properly in the global financial crisis was 2008 to 2010. That is, if you do nothing because the market is quiet and dead or nothing happening, that's the worst thing you can do. You've got to put energy into your business. And we learned that. And what we did is we used the South African, the 2010 World Cup to energize our business by getting sellers or homeowners to list their property with us, with this avalanche of fan-based support we thought was going to come to South Africa to watch the World Cup. And so we thought, right, go away, give us your house, we'll look after it, we'll lease it. And we had any number, huge inquiries of people saying, come list my house. I'm in Bedford View, come list my house, and people can come and I'll go somewhere else. I'll stay with my parents and I'll make a lot of money for the 2 weeks and etc. Turned out the demand wasn't that great. Why? Because people didn't want to do the long haul flights to South Africa, and it was too difficult, etc. But we didn't know that, so we geared and energized the whole group to go out and do listing and to be phoning people and to be active, and that energy created an energy which saw us very positively while everybody else was folding their arms and saying global financial crisis has hit us, nothing we can do, we're it's a tough market. We didn't know it was a tough market. We were working too hard. We didn't earn that much money out of the actual business of doing the rentals, But what it did is it gave us people's houses. We went and did valuations. We did listings. We created relationships. And when those guys were selling 2, 3 years later, they came back to us. But the positive was, even though we weren't doing that business, we were busy. There's nothing worse than being absolutely nothing happening.
Yeah.
So I looked at that, and when COVID came about, I said, we've got to energize our guys. So we went online training 3 times a week. We said, guys, and we had the whole group, online presentations, training, how you get sole mandates, how you overcome objections, going back, how you get sole mandates again, doing role plays and examples, etc. How do you protect your commission? How do you build your market share? How do you increase your database? All these things. And we got everybody in to come in and to listen and to engage. So although we couldn't take people out, we were all under lockdown, guys had to come and be in their computers at home and interact and be part of a business. And it felt that we created a great spirit. So we I know that the buzzword at the time was pivot. We pivoted quickly to go online. And with that, we've streamed all our IT to be able to offer all our training online, all our systems online, all our ability to see where you are on the national ladders and how things are going and whose birthdays it is, etc. Everything is done online, and it came as a result of having to be efficient online when before we were office-based.
Yeah.
And I think that's the positive we've taken and are still taking. We're not the finished product moving out of COVID.
There's 2 values that I'm seeing over there, the perseverance as well as the challenging.
Yeah.
You saw the challenge and obviously went for it and are continuing to literally keep going on with what you've learned from COVID. Now for you, in terms of what you think you can as an individual improve on, your weaknesses, because each and every one of us have weaknesses. And I think everybody looks at you and...
How long have we got, Manzi?
Is it an extensive list?
Yes. I'm sure we're going to start again, rub out the whole stuff.
Well, look, the one that just pops out to you every single day when you wake up to say, man...
I'm not tech savvy.
You're not tech savvy.
No, you asked me to do an Excel spreadsheet, and I know what it does.
Yeah.
I know how you can do it.
Yeah.
I know all the value out of it, and it's what I'm saying to my 3 kids now who are studying at university, and Excel is coming. I said, learn it. Now, I know that AI will probably overtake an Excel, but I'm not as tech savvy anywhere near as I should be. I was interestingly born just at the time when computers were coming out for the man in the street, but it was probably, I was born 3 or 4 years, it should have been later in order to be able to be caught up in that wave. I'm just on the other side of the wave, so I'm not as tech savvy as I should be.
Okay.
That's the one thing. If I look around, and I think it's going to perhaps be a bit easier for me now that my youngest has left the home, I think I need to be more mobile.
Okay.
I think I need to be more in the trenches with the branches, seeing what's happening, from Janine and Polokwane, etc., all the way. And I was in Zimbabwe last year, and I was in Botswana a couple of years before. But I haven't been to Zambia. I need to get to Zambia. I need to go to visit Marilyn in Tanzania. She's opening up. I need to see the market and experience. And I think that's part of me that I recognize is I need to be more in the marketplace in the different areas. But I think that will happen now as it's become easier, as my kids have left home and are less reliant. Then so that'll make it easier, but more travel.
So with
Dubai included.
Yeah, Dubai included, of course.
Yes.
Dubai is included. So with you being not tech savvy, I think I've actually noticed how you're almost supplementing it by inquiring more about a certain tech that's been implemented into the company. I think you learn about it and you're probably just nitpicking certain things that's not as efficient and asking the right questions.
Well, I think that's, if I look back on my career, one of the better things that I have done, without wanting to be immodest, is I do ask the right questions. And I'll relate an experience, a story when I was 21, maybe 22. They tried to bring the multi-listing system, MLS, the same as you have in America, into South Africa. And they approached the top companies in Cape Town, which in those days was ourselves, Golding, a business by the name of Steer, Durr, and Maynard Begoin. And the guy from Maynard Begoin was approaching and putting it together. And he approached us to go in it. And I was considered from the Seeff side, the person to go and speak to. My brother Lawrence was in other aspects of the business. So I went and we started the group here, and we started the group in Durban and Johannesburg. They weren't that keen on the idea, etc. But at 22, I was flying up, 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning to Johannesburg on business class. I thought I was very fancy. And we'd go into meetings, and the whole 2-hour journey to Joburg, I would be saying to myself, because we had the meetings every 4 months, every 2-3 months, I'd say, Samuel, get on the meeting and just keep quiet. Just sit and listen. You're young. These guys have been in the business for 20, 30, 40 years. You don't know anything. You don't know everything. Certainly don't know everything. You probably don't know anything. Just keep quiet. And I went through, and we'd sit down, and the meeting would start at 9 o'clock after we'd all settled down, etc. And they'd go. And by 9:10, my hand was up, and I'd saying, but what about this? But what about this? And I'd be asking the questions. And I learned to ask those questions. And from there, I think that's been it. I've been able to ask questions. I might not know the answers to them, but it's giving the IT guys and the system guys and the other people, getting them to pause for consideration as to what. And the one thing that I've been very, very focused on is that if it doesn't work for me, if I can't understand it, I can't expect my agent body to understand it. Okay, the average age of agents in the industry is around about 58. I think at Seeff we're a little bit lower now. We used to be in that category, but I think we're a little bit lower. But I'm beyond that now. And what I need to be able to say is, if I can't handle it, how can the average agent work with it? And so it's got to be, the systems and the IT and the tech has to be simple. And so I'm asking the questions, knowing that I'm speaking on behalf of a whole big body of agents who are feeling and acting in the same way as me, and will they be able to pick it up? So I judge it by, if I can pick it up, they'll be able to. And so I'm asking the questions with a view to saying, how does it impact me? How will I be able to measure up and be able to follow through?
Yeah, that's actually quite interesting, because the average agent, as you just mentioned now, is between 50 to 58. And the new technology that's coming up is for, I don't want to say it's for the younger generation.
It's way, definitely. I mean, if you look at all of the social media, which is such a strong component of our marketing today, how many post-50-year-olds do you see posting? They don't. It's a minority. It's geared towards the younger person. And that's where the marketing is happening now. That's the shift that's happening in our industry.
So how would you then suggest for, the older agent to actually tap into that market?
So I think one of the things that we've got to understand, Monzi, is we're in a people's business, and you've got to be authentic. So you're not going to be my age and coming out in all, different gear with big gold chains and, gold over, gold rings and, big thing, etc. And, the dark shades and the, hey, I'm cool. And, you might get a few laughs, but you ain't going to get proper business because you're not that kind of a person. So I think that there's two elements. One, people have got to look at it differently and choose which vehicle of social media they're going to take. So I think that's the one aspect. And then get good at that. I think LinkedIn is particularly good, but you've got to make sure you can get a big audience that way and a proper and significant audience. And I'm trying that now. I've now started my LinkedIn. I'm posting. I'm seeing what kind of aspect it is. And before, in fact, I never went on it because in a way I was shy. I was thinking, well, I'm not going out to a restaurant taking a photograph of my food so that I can, who wants to care what Samuel Seeff eats? But they might want to say, right, of a benefit of somebody who's been in the industry 40 years plus, what does he think of the market? What does he think of the interest rates? What should first-time buyers be looking at? Those kinds of things. I'm happy to give that advice. Can be taken, can be ignored, can be criticized. That's okay. That's people's choice. The other element, I think there's an opportunity, is to start bringing younger people in as assistants and giving them the exposure and learning from them the marketing and the sides of social media. And I say this because many young people can be brilliant at social media, but they may not be able to relate to the buyer or the seller. They may not know how to. It's a question of having the empathy, on having the ability to listen. Now everybody says, this guy's a great salesperson. He can talk the hind leg off a donkey. As you know, it's all about the art of the listening. It's about what's being said, and the smart agent, the good ones, hear actually what's not being said. And they can size up the clients by what's not being said rather than what's being said. And it's the ability to listen. And they say, you're given 2 ears and 1 mouth. You've got to use that in that proportion. And a lot of the young guys who just got big social media presence are just, well, hey, it's because I've got a presence, etc. Come by, but they're not listening to their clients. They're not understanding their needs. They're not showing the empathy. And if you can't do that, you're not going to be successful. So I'm saying is, arguably, there's an opportunity to marry the two. The older, more experienced person who's good at dealing with clients and dealing with people and what to listen for, what not, how to overcome objections, and a younger generation potentially being the funnel through for all the leads and attracting people, etc.
Yeah.
There's a good argument for putting that together.
Yeah, you just mentioned right now, because I think, I know one of the challenges that I've had, or that I've been faced with, is speaking with an older generation looking to, invest or buy property. You have to have some level of patience.
You've got to have a lot of it.
Yeah.
It's a very critical element.
Yeah, because they're not going to get you off the bat to say, look, I want to do it right now. Some do, some don't, but the patience to say, I'll guide you through until the end.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people have that patience.
Well, it's not only having the patience, it's being able to read your client.
Yeah.
Are they an extrovert? Are they introverted? Are they analytical? Because you'll deal with an analytical person with an extrovert completely differently, And then there's the driver. We were trained in our days with 4 quadrants, etc. You have the driver, the analytical, the introvert, and the shy or the extrovert, etc. And you deal with them differently. And if you are too pushy with the driver, he's going to say, forget it, don't tell me. You've got to relax and let him go with it. But if you're not assertive enough with somebody who's an introvert, again, you won't get a decision. So you've got to understand the personality of the person you're dealing with and adapt, and then provide the service through that.
Are you an extrovert?
I would say so. I'm an extrovert driver, I suppose. Yeah. I'm certainly not an introvert. Okay. Or agreeable is what they used to call it, an introvert, or an agreeable, etc. I'm not that, and I'm certainly not analytical. I'm not smart enough to be analytical.
One would think you're actually analytical.
You would think that?
Yeah, one would think you're analytical.
No, I don't think so.
So, okay, seeing that you're not analytical,
I think it's my job to have to analyze. Well, not to be analytical. It's my job to have to actually look and see. You asked me what I spend time of the day. I spend a lot of my time reading articles about real estate that's taking place around the world. What's going on in the UK, what is affecting agents, what they're looking at, how they're having to deal with it. Obviously aligned specifically initially with the English-speaking countries, because firstly it's easier to get all the material and to read about it, etc.
Yeah.
What's going on in Australia and in America specifically, where there's this massive big issue at the moment about listings, whether you can hide your listings, whether you have to put them automatically onto the portals, and the big fight between the Zillow, which is the big giant, it's the big aggregated portal of the US, versus Compass, which is one of the bigger agencies, and they're fighting about private listings before they go on, and these guys are the Zillow saying so I know, and I'm up to date, and it's important for me to analyze what's going on around the world so that I can be prepared that if that trend comes here, I know what's happening, we can be ahead of the curve, and we can adapt as to whatever the issues are.
Yeah, look, I never actually knew, because in Dubai we have I think about 2 or 3 property portals there, and it's pretty much regulated by the government.
Right.
There's no private, or there is now a private property portal that's coming in, that's offering 100% commission to agencies. But obviously, if you're used to something that's been regulated by the government, you're going to stick to that. So how is it that the property portals here, I think now they're changing their regulations and their policies. How is it now going to impact the group as a whole moving forward?
So this is interesting. We've had a number of iterations of the aggregated property portal.
Yeah.
And we had one which came out of Prop Control, and then I negotiated together with some of my industry colleagues a relationship between ourselves and P24. in which they gave us a revenue share, and it made sense. Support somebody, they'll give you a revenue share, you look after it. And we had an agreement that there were certain elements had to be done. And we had a minimum of 3-year period, and then afterwards either side could cancel, etc. The day after the 3-year deal, actually on New Year's Day, we received the letter saying we're canceling the agreement.
Wow.
But by then, we had spent the previous 3 years building them up to be a arguably monopolistic kind of, etc. So they then wanted to buy the competing one, because in most markets, you've got at least 2 aggregated portals. And they generally keep each other honest in terms of pricing, etc. The day after, they gave us notice and then tried to buy the competing portal as well, in which case they would have had an undisputed monopoly and we would have been at the mercy, and they could have charged whatever they want, because if we wanted to reach a market and wanted to find buyers, we have to advertise, we'd have to pay their cost, etc. So again, I headed up the opportunity of industry buying the second one, because I didn't want to see the second one, which is now private property, being in the hands of the people who ran P24, because that would have just not been good for the industry. We would have been facing huge costs. And we put together a consortium and eventually bought out the second one. And private property is now definitely starting to show its colors. It's starting to improve. It's starting to become competitive against P24. And I think that's necessary. I don't think P24 is all necessarily evil. It depends how they behave, how they push their pricing. They've given a huge whack in terms of pricing upwards this year. That might come back to bite them. I don't think necessarily it was the smartest strategic business decision. But I'm sitting on the outside and I'm a consumer. You know, they're ones setting the prices. They might say, we'll try and do as best as we can and raise prices. Well, that might work for you for in the short term. It may not work for you in the long term. But that's a strategy they've taken. I think, from my viewpoint, industry's bought into private property. They want to support it. They want to try and help build it. They want to make it a competitor so that you get an relatively even playing fields. And you get it at a level where the price adjustments, which when they come in, are palatable to the consumer, being us, and we can run a profitable business along the way.
Okay, that's very interesting. So now Seeff is, as I mentioned in the beginning, becoming, or rather is, a legacy brand now. And I can't give a time frame or a certain year to say where exactly do you expect it to be in 2030 or 2040. But where do you expect it to be in 2030?
So I think that if we look now 2025 and 5 years ahead, I would want us, I don't want to be sitting here saying, no, we're doing really well, but we're 40% of our potential. That would make me upset. That would mean that we haven't actually learned, we haven't advanced, we haven't taken advantage of the situation which we're in now. So if you said to me by 2030, I would like us to be somewhere between 65 and 70% of our potential. That we've pushed in and we're actually going. If we were working at 75% of our potential by 2030, I would be delighted. You know, I'd be really thrilled. What is it going to take? A lot of effort. I think a lot of growth, both acquisitorial. We need to actually get other people to come in and join the brand and come in and to help build it. I think that's the one. And then some organic, where you have a large license which isn't doing that well in this area or that area, and you say, right, sell off that part of the area, bring in somebody else in, or get a sub-license in this area, somebody else in to come in and to focus and to build up our market shares along the way. That's for the next 5 years. 2030 and beyond, I would like to see us having establish ourselves a little bit further within Africa, and then start to look to see where are the opportunities, maybe an acquisition of a small chain somewhere in Europe or in somewhere in the UK or something like that, which we can add in our culture, our values, our work ethic. But I'm very mindful that you can't teach a dog to search for bones in its own backyard. You know, they know where the bones are. And us coming in brand new, you know, everybody said to me, why don't you go to Australia? There's so many South Africans there. They'll all come and support you. And I'm not so sure that's it. If we've got the best product and the best offering and the best service, they'll support me. But they won't support me just because I'm South African. as opposed to a local. And you've got that in Dubai.
That's true.
You're a brand in Seeff in Dubai. If your service isn't at the top level, if you're not offering the best that the market's got to offer,
no one's going to come.
Well, they'll come, they'll use you, but you go and buy through somebody else. They might give you a chance to prove that you're not the best.
Yeah.
You can't afford that to happen. So if you're there, you've got to be the best. And that's how people will work and judge you. If you're the best, they'll work with you. They'll give you a chance.
Yeah.
The door will open because you're a South African and South African company. But hey, if you can't take advantage of that, they're not going to do business with you to their own detriment just because you're South African.
And you know, our licensee, Nombasa, will always iterate that, listen, we have such a big name behind us. I mean, that's the first door opened. You know what I mean? And now it's about you yourself as an agent to carry that forward and give the service that is expected of you.
Yeah. And the same applies for an agent who's working here out of, 100 meters away from head office.
Yeah.
You know, they've got 60 years of legacy behind them.
Yeah.
But if they are not quick, they'll be dead.
Quick and dead.
Yeah. That's it. They're not going to do business.
Yeah.
You have to do it quick. It's instantaneous turnaround times. People call 10 o'clock, bang, that phone's got to be answered. You know, nighttime, not I'm having a great time out of this party. Sorry, I got a call to take. Yeah. No, sorry, it doesn't really work for me now. Do you mind if I phone you at 7:15 tomorrow morning? You know, that's fine. But I'm saying you've got to be available.
Yeah.
And you've got to be quick, and you've got to be providing excellence in terms of your service.
All right. So to close off, two things. First thing, what are you excited about for the rest of the year?
I'm excited by our opportunities. I look at it, we're working on a number of potential acquisitions, a number of opportunities to open up new offices and licenses. We're bringing on, hopefully, 2 people to go out and explore all the areas where we're not covered to actually grow the footprint. So I'm excited about that. I think there's a lot of growth that we can do there. Then equally, I'm excited by taking what we have and improving their market shares and their potential that they've got. To me, it's an exciting period at the moment.
Second thing, what can you tell to every single, can you look at the camera? All the branches, the message that you can give them for the rest of the year? I know you've already given the speech at the conferences and everything, but...
Are we talking about the Seeff agents or the marketplace?
Seeff agents and the marketplace.
Okay, so I think that I'm very fortunate to, and I was asked this last night, have I ever been offered another job in the world? And the answer is no. I'm very fortunate to be in an industry which is so pivotal and fundamental in the fabric of a society that we want to see. Having a home, whether you're renting or whether you own, is, in Maslow's hierarchies, it's food, shelter, etc. That shelter is right up there. You have to have that. We're in an industry which is, it's indispensable to everybody, and it provides the core of a good society. Being proud of where you live, proud of your home, having home ownership, having an asset, all of those things are fantastic. So my advice is be very fortunate that we're in this industry, or you're a buyer or a seller or participating, or you're a homeowner, or even if you're renting, but you make your place as best as you can. I give my children this advice, and every now and again I've got to stop myself and say to myself as well, I said, Manzi, you're going to have this day only once in your life. After that, it's gone.
It's gone.
Make the most of it.
Wow.
Make the most of it. You only have this day once. Make the most of it.
Wow. And with that being said, guys, thank you so much. Firstly, Sam, I really, really appreciate the fact that you came out today in this amazing weather, and that you've given each and every agent the opportunity to carry the brand forward and to just expand themselves and be part of something that is, quite frankly, the biggest in Africa, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for the opportunity, and I will forever be grateful and in your debt, because you've just
Manzi, you've done enough. Hopefully, have you been my debt? We'll be partners rather. Okay, and you've played your part already. So well done to you on your great performances.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and of course, like, subscribe, and comment if you have anything that you want us to keep
Only
presenting.
comment nicely, hey? Remember that.
Only good comments. All right.
Okay.
See you on the next episode.
All the best.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.